Hello, thank you for all who've joined so far. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Thanks. Hi, for those who just joined, we're going to get started in just a couple minutes. Thanks. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victoria Ciano. I'm the marketing coordinator with Atrion, and I want to thank everyone for joining our next installment of Atrion's webinar series featuring Fortinet Security Fabric. Just a quick note before we get started, you will see at the bottom left of the meeting window that you're able to navigate between the content stage, which is the presentation, and the Q&A tabs on your own. We'll be holding off on answering all the questions until the end, but if something does come to mind, feel free to enter it into the question box at any point. During today's webinar, we're going to hear from two presenters. We have Doug Manger, who is the manager of systems engineering at Fortinet. He's going to be taking us through the high-level security fabric overview. And Dave Weir, who is the solutions engineer at Atrion, will be performing the live demonstration. Okay, so now to get us started, I'm going to pass things off to our newly appointed president at Atrion Communications, Dominic Grillo, to say a few words. Thank you.
Thanks, Victoria. So again, this is Dominic Grillo with Atrion Communications. Some of you may be familiar with us, but for those of you who aren't, we've been around for over 32 years, which we think is a pretty good thing in this industry. And really specializing on network infrastructure and network security and data security solutions. Real strong team of engineers that can help support a lot of these solutions. You'll get to hear from one of them with Dave Ware as one of our SEs during this presentation. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to spend some time learning about the Fortinet Security Fabric. And with that, Doug, go ahead.
Thanks, Dom. As Dom had mentioned, my name is Doug Manger, Systems Engineering Manager at Fortinet. Been here for almost 7 years at this point. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about Fortinet's idea of the security fabric. So to give you a little bit of a lead into that, Fortinet has been in business since the year 2000, and being that we are an engineering-based, engineering-minded company, we've been building toward this idea of the security fabric. And so in the process of this, it's going to really give you just a general overview of the security fabric and hopefully generate some good questions from you as it pertains to how that's going to look in the industry, and certainly that's going to be underscored by what Dave is going to illustrate for you. So now bear with me here just for a moment. All right. So before we dive into the security fabric, what I wanted to talk to you about is the fact that Fortinet, through the years, because of what I just said, is poised to provide security without compromise. And in order to illustrate what that means, we first have to look at the current state of security and what we're up against as customers, vendors, et cetera, and really address the fact that there are 3 key areas we need to focus on before we can really get to this idea of security without compromise and certainly dive into the security fabric. First and foremost, today's network is borderless. Because of the advent of wireless, BYOD, cloud, IoT, the network has gone from being perimeter, where everything on the outside is bad and everything on the inside is good, to having an attack surface that's grown exponentially over the years. And with that, you have to start looking at a security strategy that is intelligent and addresses all facets of that to ensure that what you're looking to protect is not going to be compromised. In addition to that, we know that slow is broken. So there's always been that concept of security versus usability, and it's always been that teeter-totter of, well, if it's going to be secure, it's not going to be usable. Well, that's not the case anymore. We need something that's going to be powerful to give you the best in performance for the price across the board to give you the speeds and feeds that you need, as well as the security that's requisite for your requirements. And finally, complexity is the enemy of security. Over the years, a number of customers, and probably all of our customers at this point, have employed point products to address point issues at a certain point in time. The problem with that is it's not seamless. It introduces gaps, and what we also know is that today, most agencies, most organizations, most customers do not have enough people in place to manage all of those point products, let alone become masters of them and see how they can communicate across the board where they usually don't. Again, resulting in something that's truly not seamless. So over the course of this, we're going to be looking at something that is not just firewall, but more thought processing around security solutions that address something that is truly intelligent, powerful, and seamless. And that's where we talk about Fortinet's vision on the security fabric that can really deliver on the promise of the security without compromise idea. Now, there are three key tenets of that. First, something that has to be broad. Second, powerful. And third, automated. From a broad perspective, we need something that has complete visibility and coverage and also flexibility across the entire dynamic attack surface. For visibility, we're not looking to simply provide key points of visibility in certain areas. For it to be truly intelligent and comprehensive, you have to have something that provides visibility across the entire infrastructure. In addition to that, you need something that provides coverage. And that coverage needs to look at not just what are your clients, what is your perimeter, but cloud security, application security, network security, access, and even IoT. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. And finally, something that's flexible and open. Now, again, going back to what I stated about point products, we realize that everybody has these point products. And Fortinet's not looking to simply say, hey, we're Fortinet, we've got security solutions, you need to replace everything with Fortinet. Absolutely not. We're looking to provide, by way of robust APIs, extensibility and that visibility, right? We want to enhance visibility, increase security, but reduce complexity, but still give you that benefit of leveraging your existing investment in those point solutions to become part of that security fabric. Now, as I stated, Fortinet is not just a firewall company. We are a security solutions vendor, and as such, we have a broad array of portfolios that can help in the realm of security operations, enterprise firewall, cloud security, advanced threat protection, application security, and secure access. And what you'll note is that out of the 41 products we have, in and amongst each one of these silos here, we have products that intermix across the board to give you that comprehensive fabric and correlation across the board to fit any of those areas. Now, when speaking again about broad, we do have a fabric-ready partnership with these vendors, these competitors of ours, but even more than that, this is a list that is constantly growing. We realized early on that it's of vast importance, again, by way of our APIs and by way of contractual obligation here to work with these vendors to supply more information and more utility, more visibility into the security fabric. Take, for example, PulseSecure or Carbon Black. Yes, Fortinet does have an endpoint called FortiClient. You can certainly use that to do a number of key security options to protect your endpoints. But if you're already using Carbon Black, the benefit there is as it's part of the Fabric Ready program, it's a built-in API call that can say if Carbon Black finds something that is nefarious, malware, zero-day, that's going to communicate back through the security fabric to our FortiSandbox. And if it is true zero-day malware, it's never been found before, FortiSandbox will create a signature on the fly and will send that signature back to everything in the security fabric, including all of the endpoints through Carbon Black, to cut down on that time to protect. That would normally be in the realm of potentially minutes on up to days, down to mere seconds. And again, as we stated, this number of our fabric-ready partners is always growing. And if there is something that you're using and you don't see it on the list or even the list on our website, you can certainly let Atrion know, you can let us know, and we can work with you to make that an integration. Second, powerful. Powerful is something that can provide increasing performance but also reduce the burden on infrastructure. Now, for Fortinet, when we first started, the idea was not to leverage merchant-based silicon, but instead create our own security processing unit that would help provide the best price per performance, the best line rate speeds, and also the most effective security across the board while not bringing things down to the lowest common denominator. So first and foremost, how do we do that? Well, because we use our own purpose-built ASICs, or what we call our security processors, we can give you true line rate speeds with what we have here, our NP6, our network traffic controller, or our accelerated chip. Again, giving you line rate speeds for giving the fast throughput and the lowest latency in the security realm. In addition to that, we do have a content inspection chip. That's up to our CP9 right now. That's going to do the heavy lifting for all of the inspection, encryption, decryption that's necessary to ensure that you are finding everything possible both in the clear HTTP traffic and the secured SSL traffic. And then finally, for entry-level devices, we have an optimized ARM-based architecture system on a chip that has the light versions of both the NP chip as well as our CP chips. Now, why is that important? Well, today, and this number I believe is actually higher, internet traffic is probably between 40 to 50% SSL, and that's growing. And for most organizations, if you're not doing some sort of deep packet inspection for SSL to see what's within that channel, then you're missing a lot of potential issues with malware, maybe data exfiltration. Essentially, it's a black hole, and you just simply can't have that in today's day and age. And through the use of these security processing units, we can get up to 10 times the performance over our competition. And it's also scalable from the entry level on up to our 14-tier chassis and everything in between to provide you that single pane of glass and single management across the board, so you're getting the best, again, price for performance in the industry for the level of security that you need. Now, going further with this, again, I mentioned merchant-based silicon. Our competitors are really going to be relegated to the fact that they might be using merchant-based silicon, say Intel, for example. They might have a firewall or some type of security device that is quoted at giving you 100 gig speeds. But when they enable inspection for AV, IPS, app control, etc., it will bring it down to 10 gig speeds. Now, with this merchant-based silicon, the problem is you're bringing everything down to that lowest common denominator. So no matter if you say you've got a 100 gig firewall, well, if you enable any of those things, you're really going to be relegated to that single throat to choke, the CPU, and bring everything down to that minimum, that lowest common denominator. Whereas with Fortinet and with the security processing units, we leverage something called optimal path processing. So that for the sake of packet processing that needs to hit the NP, that will send it out via line rate. If it's something that's for content inspection, like I said, it's going to be leveraging our content processor. But it's only going to leverage those where those security functions and those fast path functions are indicated in a policy. So that means if you are simply looking to do east-west inspection for, say, interior segmentation and only do IPS, it's not going to affect the box as much as it would with merchant-based silicon, and it's going to have less of a ramification in comparison to also doing that north-south traffic where you're doing the heavy load. So across the board, you're getting better system resource utilization. It is truly optimized, and you get that best price for performance. Now, something that's absolutely pertinent right now is powerful. And powerful in this regard is something that looks at the comprehensive notion of coverage. For us, something that scales across the cloud is very resonant with a number of our prospective and our current customers. Whether it's private cloud, now one thing I'd like to mention is that we have a very, very strong partnership with VMware and a very strong integration with their NSX solution. Something that's very, very helpful for protecting individual nodes that are crossing across that vSwitch for the sake of private cloud infrastructure. In addition, we look at protecting the software as a service cloud. A number of individual organizations out there have decided that there's a benefit to getting rid of on-prem Exchange and sending that out to O365. The issue is that there's a disconnect. We've got to look at, well, how do you know that the data you're sending there or that the emails that are being processed through there are truly secure in transit? So we're providing visibility at the realm of the next generation firewall through our FortiMail product for increased scanning for malware there, anti-spam, even doing identity-based encryption. But we also have a new product here called FortiCASB. And that's something that can do by way of API an out-of-band look at, well, we have Google Drive, we have O365, we have Salesforce. But it's not just enough to see that our users are going there, whether they're on-site or they're off-site. We need to see what are they doing for the sake of compliance, for the sake of security, for the sake of data integrity, IP integrity. These are all very real notions and real ideas that we have to look at today, and assurances that you are getting the visibility for the sake of that reliability. And then finally, for infrastructure as a service, we were one of the first at AWS. And for Microsoft Azure, yes, we're in there, but we are also the firewall that protects Microsoft Azure. So if you're looking at going to the cloud or you already are in the cloud, certainly think about what else you need to be considering for the sake of security and that visibility across private, through SaaS, through infrastructure as a service. In addition, we want to provide a fast and coordinated response to any of the threats. Now, how we do that, we look at that from a global and local threat intelligence perspective. Now, for known threats, we leverage the FortiGuard fabric. Now, FortiGuard fabric or FortiGuard service, that's the umbrella of services that hangs over all of the Fortinet products. So any of the products that are using AV inspection, IPS, application control, web filtering, etc., that is going to be wholly owned by Fortinet. Researchers, pen testers, etc., working tirelessly 24/7 to give you the latest and greatest bleeding edge information so that your security posture is absolutely right up to snuff, and you can be assured automatically that as new threats are found, that you are being protected from those. Now, for unknown threats, we have the keystone of the security fabric, and that's FortiSandbox. Now, FortiSandbox is something that can reside in the cloud or on-prem. But the point here is that FortiSandbox is something that if we find through a FortiGate, a FortiWeb, FortiMail, FortiClient, that there is a malicious payload or something that just doesn't look right, it can be sent through the fabric to FortiSandbox. FortiSandbox will run it through a number of emulated OSs to identify if it is polymorphic, if it's known malware, if it's something that's being repackaged, or if it is truly zero-day, never been seen before. If it is the latter, FortiSandbox will create a signature, as I stated, on the fly, send it to every device in the security fabric through that automated threat response. Again, with the idea of cutting down on that time to protect to mere seconds versus something that could simply be far too long and getting you into a territory of mass infection. Now, also, we have a product called FortiSIM, and that's our SOC and NOC integration. That's going to be looking at the entirety of your organization and seeing where there could be issues, giving you information not just about what's happening with the devices, but are there anomalies? Are there security issues that you need to know about? Now, all of this is that coordinated effort to give you that idea of further that idea of the security fabric, everything working in concert to provide you, again, that enhanced visibility, increased security, and the reduction of complexity. Now, where are we going? Well, we have forward-leading security strategies for today's challenges, but we're also looking at putting things in motion for the sake of cloud scaling. Simply looking to scale protection automatically in private and public cloud infrastructures, but also looking to make things more extensible and automated through our robust APIs for that third-party integration. And that goes back to that point about the fabric-ready partners in the fact that we really are every day working with different vendors, even though they're competitors, right? We want to make sure that you can have, again, all of that visibility, all of that control, so that you get a better idea of where are you in the realm of not just your baseline of security, but where you can go from there and consistently work toward being preemptive instead of reactive. And certainly, last but not least, securing the Internet of Things. IoT security, by having this as a strategy via the fabric, is absolutely vital. One point I'd like to make about IoT is that what we're seeing in the security space with IoT is that it's a mad dash to get to market. And the problem with that is it's an initiative to make money and less of an initiative to make sure that it's secure. It's handing that issue of security off to the customer and the consumer at that point, and it's something that we really, really need to get our hands around. With the security fabric, what we're doing here is identifying any of those internet-capable devices of looking at, okay, what is something that is We know, we vetted, it's absolutely fine. What is something that's tolerated and something that's rogue? More importantly, we have to be there and ready to help you in the event that perhaps the infrastructure team has not told the security team, we're buying headless units for, say, your EcoBees or your Nest or other devices that will go somewhere on the network and could potentially be the key vector for exfiltrating data and getting malware into the network. So certainly here, across the board, my hope is that you can see that this is going to be a very comprehensive set of tactics and a solution that can provide you the overall fully integrated solution, extensible to those products that you may already have, or simply give you an idea of what Fortinet can do for you in tandem with Atrion to help secure, but do it in an intelligent and coordinated fashion, while also providing you the visibility and awareness and overall management. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Dave. He's going to give you a hands-on demo of where we are with FortiOS 5.6 in the realm of the security fabric.
Thanks, Doug. So I think several of you know me already. My name is Dave Ware. I'm one of the solutions engineers at Atrion. Load up my screen here. You guys should, in a second, you'll see the security fabric kind of in action, right? So there it goes. So here you can see the Forti view, right? So in this environment, I've got a FortiGate, a couple switches, an access point, and a bunch of clients connected. So as Doug talked about, getting full visibility from everything on the network through the fabric, whether it be third-party apps or whether it be if you want to be a full Fortinet shop, that's perfectly fine as well. So you get kind of the information from everything collective. As you can see here, you get, we've got a firewall here, which is our HQ firewall. We've got a branch located in Orlando. I've got 2 switches off of this HQ firewall, and I've also got an AP here. And from here, you can see we've got a bunch of different devices that are connected, right? So any one of these, you can see here's a probably a guest network, since it's on the 100 network. I know that much. And by mousing over these, you can kind of get some visibility as to what these devices are right away. In this case, this is an internal device, so you can see it's got my username. You can see the device name. You can see what interface it's connected to, OS, and as well as some information about it. And because you're getting this full visibility, remember, as Doug talked about, using the sandbox and getting to gather all of that data from everything, you can really understand that you get, so if a piece of malware was to hit something, right, let's talk about the Carbon Black integration or the Pulse Secure integration that Doug talked about. You get the malware on the machine, it gets forwarded up to the sandbox. Sandbox does its sandboxing, identifies, this is bad, nobody's seen it before, writes a signature. That signature now gets pushed out to every device that's part of this fabric, whether it be the AP, whether it be the switch, whether it be the clients, or the firewall itself. So almost instantaneously, when that signature is written, it gets published out everywhere so that malware can't spread laterally. You're not only blocking it north-south, you're blocking it east-west as well. So you really get the ability to isolate those devices and get the idea of not only automated that security aspect through, with the integration of Sandbox, but you also get the ability to see what happened. So in this case, you'll see here we've got one user, and I'm looking at device traffic, right? So one user is using up quite a bit of data, 7 gigs. So if I was to drill down into here and say, hey, what's going on? Okay, look, they've used 7.5 gigs in this period of time. What are they doing? Oh, look, they're doing YouTube, probably streaming a 4K video of some sort to, suck up all of my bandwidth. Well, maybe now I want to adjust my policies to say, all right, maybe I do traffic shaping to throttle that back. And don't allow one user to suck up my entire bandwidth. You also get the ability to look at things from a security posture. So if you wanted to dive into sources here and look through and say, okay, I've got any one of these devices on here. I think in this case, let's pick, let's see which one we want to do. Let's do 10.9 is on the top, right? So in here, I can drill down right here and say, all right, what's going on with this user. Or if I was to go to, I think, let's see what it is. This one, no, maybe not. You'd be able to see sources, destinations, those kind of things. I can also see OS. So if I knew it was on, if I knew there was problems on there, I don't have threats on here today, but so if you'd be able to see right away, okay, look, threats have occurred. I can quarantine the device right from here and just do quarantine source. And when you do that, you get the ability to say, all right, temporary ban them until I can check them out and figure out what's going on, or I can permanently ban them if I know, all right, this is a guest user, I don't want them on my network anymore, goodbye. And when that quarantine happens, it gets pushed down to all the devices on the fabric again, right? So whether it's Fortinet based, whether it's one of the third-party fabric-ready partners, you get that aspect as well. In here, you also get to see, we do some security auditing. So we can look at this audit and say, okay, from a security posture on this 300D I've got, what am I looking at on there? Well, I see I've got a NAT device here, right? So somebody probably took a little Netgear router, plugged it in, and now they're connected off of that, trying to bypass my wireless security, or trying to be able to connect multiple devices at their workstation, whatever it may be. But you can also scroll through and say, oh, look, in this case, FortiClient isn't on any of these devices. So maybe I want to put some sort of AV on them to make sure they're registered. I don't have a certificate on my FortiGates, so that can be that. But then what if I want to look, so that's from just the 300D itself. What if I want to dig a little deeper into the whole fabric? I can now see, look, my Orlando branch, right? I'm not doing device detection on this DMZ network. Maybe I want to do that so I can get a little more visibility into it from there. I've got unused policies, right? I can go in and say, look, I've got policies that have never been used. Do I really need them? Are they actually used for something, or are they just remnants that are left over? I know everybody has a situation where they have a policy that was put in and then never removed after it was no longer needed. So you can kind of clean up some of your security policies from that aspect. You can dig into endpoint compliance, right? So looking at, all right, these don't have endpoint on them at all, and the same things as before, right? The certificate on, I don't have a certificate on the Orlando branch either. So that's so the real thing to kind of understand, I know I'm kind of going high level and quickly here, but the thing to understand is that, because the fabric is so robust and you get so much visibility on there, you really can, just from, a firewall with the fabric enabled, can gather all of this data from, third-party things or all Fortinet things, be able to pull that information in and drill into it real time, and identify, okay, look, there's an issue here, I need to address it, or just make sure that your security posture is progressing. So if my, my security audit score is really low at this moment in time, all right, well, maybe I go through and I start editing these policies and start cleaning up some of these things so that I see the progress of, okay, look, this is what our security posture was when we put this in, and now you can come back 30 days, run it again, and say, okay, look, now here's my next list of to do. I've accomplished these. Now I can go through and I need to get these cleaned up from those things. From here, you also be able to see that you'll be able to identify device counts, but it'll also generate a threat score for you. So if the FortiGate itself or anything in the fabric is identifying, oh, look, this user is constantly downloading malware, or we're seeing a large number of peer-to-peer connections come in, maybe we want to look at our peer-to-peer policy, figure out whether we want to deny it, allow it, maybe just throttle it back, depending on what your environment is. And we can help you with any of that. And as Doug said, any of the third-party integrations that are, not part of the fabric-ready program already, we can work out and either get them, find out maybe they're on the roadmap to be onboarded, or we figure out our own integration with it because it is open API. A lot of the vendors that we work with outside of Fortinet are open to, are open to using their API to get calls back to other things. So whether you have your own sandbox or whether you have, some sort of custom endpoint that you want to do or an EDR solution, we can work that out and really figure out what makes the most sense to integrate all of that and get the visibility that you guys really need from your HQ firewall through all your branches and your entire network from, everywhere. As well as be able to make sure that you are secure as much as possible, and make sure you're progressing through your security practice. Really, I guess is the best term to use. So, I mean, that's high level, but I think the thing to understand is that, like Doug said, we already know the FortiGates are really powerful with their, custom ASICs and chips and that sort. The big thing to remember is the automation is becoming big in the network as a whole. So being able to use Fortinet's fabric as really your groundwork from the rest of your network and integrate that into everything that you already have existing, and then be able to automate some of that response, because nobody has enough staff these days. There's no need to have one person sitting there running down endpoints because they clicked on an advertising link. So being able to automate that is I think a huge part. So a little early, but I think with that we can turn it over to questions.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we're going to open it up to Q&A right now. So feel free to switch over to the Q&A tab and enter your questions, and we'll answer them verbally. I'll give you a couple minutes.
And while we're waiting for that, the other thing I'll mention is because, like Doug says, this integrates into your cloud applications and that kind of stuff, you can get visibility not just from your on-prem infrastructure options, but by putting FortiGates in the cloud, or any options in the cloud, you can get visibility there as well. So you kind of get everything from where are people going to, all right, what do people have access to, and where is our data going? So you really get that full picture and full roadmap of everything.
All right, so no questions so far. I'm just going to give it one more minute. If anyone has anything to say, just please enter it into the question box and we'll answer it for you.
And as always, if any questions come up later, most of you have my contact information, but you can always shoot over to us or to Doug, and we can go through and answer your questions. If you want to see your own demo where we can talk about your environment, where this fits, where we can utilize this with what you already have, by all means, we can have that conversation, talk about it, design it, figure it all out. That's part of the fun part of this job is fitting what makes sense and helping you guys improve based on what you already have. There's no need to reinvest in something if you already have something in place, and we can utilize that. So that's really the bread and butter of the fabric, is being able to integrate with everything and automate some of the processes and give you the visibility you need to be able to figure out what happened and where are things and what do I have right now, because a lot of people don't have a good grasp as to not only what their network is, but what's going on in the network, and then automating some of those processes to relieve some of your time, so you can kind of get without having to chase down everything manually.
And Dave, it looks like we did have a question come in there from one of the people that they're asking if you could show off the trajectory of virus infection. I don't know if that's something you can see within the demo that you have there.
So if we're talking about the direction it's going to, I don't know if I have any in my logs. Let me look and see here. I can probably look at threats. So I don't have a malware source. So what you can do is you can see, you will be able to see, actually, so I can create one here for you real quick. You'll be able to see where it came from, what identified it, whether it was via the sandbox or whether it was just from the on-prem or whether it's from the AV detection itself. You wouldn't be able to see necessarily if you're looking for the lateral spread and be able to see exactly how it went through, and Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think of any way you wouldn't be able to see exactly how it went hop to hop, but you would be able to see, you'd be able to drill in and say, okay, look, I see this piece of malware got downloaded, I see where it came from, and then you'd be able to go from there, and the next endpoint that got infected, you'd be able to see where that endpoint got infected from. So you'd get a little bit of a lateral aspect to it, but you may not necessarily see exactly the path it took to get there. You may just see that
Right.
it was identified on that endpoint.
Correct. Yeah, and that's certainly for, so if you're looking to look at the trajectory of malware infection. So if you're using, say, FortiGate, FortiMail, and FortiSandbox, the trajectory of infection there would really be anything that's going to be coming through the firewall. Maybe they've clicked a link within FortiMail. They've tried to download an attachment. And so where FortiSandbox comes into play, again, whether it's cloud or it's on-prem, is that there are going to be certain checks that we're going to do, preemptive checks on both FortiMail, FortiClient, FortiWeb, FortiGate currently, as we're adding other products to the fabric. But what we initially do to identify, is this a file that requires additional deep level scanning to see what it is? First and foremost, the AV engine that we use is going to scan for a certain number of hashes, known hashes. It's called the wild list for malware. And the way in which we do that is using compact pattern recognition language, otherwise known as CPRL. So it's very chunked, tight code that can scan for thousands of different variants of viruses, malware, etc. But also in the process, it's basically code emulation to identify if something is polymorphic or metamorphic by looking at specific hashes and identifying, hey, does it look like something else? So at the forefront, FortiMail, FortiClient, FortiGate, FortiWeb, et cetera, they're already going to find a large number. I think the last rating we got from VV100 was in the realm of about 97% of virus inspection detection. But what it'll do is identify if it cannot find anything, but it detects it as, say, suspicious or it warrants a deeper check, then it's going to hand it off to FortiSandbox. And that's where it runs through a series of emulated OSs, whether that's Windows XP, Windows 7, 8, 8.1, 10. We're even doing a cloud initiative with Mac, and we can also look at APKs for Android. And it will detonate those files in an array of ways, whether it's looking at playing with the space-time continuum of, is it a time bomb? If we fast forward a certain amount and it detonates, or is it trying to just simply phone home to a CNC, et cetera? That's going to really tell us the severity of the malware. If it's something that's known, is it something that's from our extended database, say looking at viral payloads or known viruses from way, way back to the first virus, or if it is, again, 0 day. Now, if you're looking for the trajectory of how that would work and how it looks when a new signature is created on the fly, that's something that we could always do for an adjacent demo, something that we can do through our New York City lab, and we have a way of illustrating that, especially through FortiMail, because we know that the lion's share of malware these days is coming through email. And just for the fact that no matter how many times you tell users, don't click the link, don't download the attachment, if it's something that you just don't know or you're not sure, just don't do anything with it. No matter what, it still happens. And we are even now seeing more sophisticated attacks, not just ransomware, but the latest is a ransom worm. So it's now seeking out other sources on the network once it has been downloaded to a specific machine. So hopefully that kind of answers and maybe over answers your question there about trajectory. But if you're looking to see more around that, we can provide other demos, more information. Be happy to do that.
Thank you, Doug, and thanks, Dave. Any further questions today? All right, well, I'm not seeing any further questions. So I want to thank everyone for joining. It was a pleasure to have you on, and a special thanks to Doug Manger and Dave Weir for sharing this information with us. It was a great, very informative session.
Thank you.
If anybody has any questions, you have all our contact information. You can email Victoria, Doug, me, any one of us, and we can either set up a demo or have a conversation, talk about it, any of those kind of things. We're always open to that stuff. So if you want to see it in your environment, we absolutely can set that up as well. So conversation is always open. It's up to you just to ask the questions you need.
All right, great. Thank you again, guys. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.